Could have paid for me. Your man, Louie T. Welcome to my NFL scouting combine coverage for 2025. Day number one was very boring. I tried to find some other, mild term to describe the first day of the combine, but I couldn't find another one. I always tell you, I watch the combine so you don't have to, and I pray that you didn't watch the combine today. It is the most overrated product the NFL has, and it continues to hammer that point home with days like today. Now, with that said, I've always felt like the combine wasn't for the guys that were going to be drafted early on in the draft. The combine is really for the guys that are 5th round picks, 6th round picks, maybe undrafted, and they're fighting to become a draft pick in the 5th round. Or maybe you are a 5th rounder starting out in the process and you work your way up, you go Senior Bowl and you go to the combine, and all of a sudden people view you in a different light after going through the process, sitting down with you in interviews, watching you move out on the football field. And maybe some people were on the fence. Now all of a sudden you've moved yourself up today, to the 4th round. If you were a 4th round pick, maybe you moved yourself into day 2. That kind of guy. That's what these, to me, these events like the combine and the Senior Bowl are for. The guys that know they're going in the 1st round, the guys that know they're top 10, top 15 picks, they don't have to do this, right? This is optional for them. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. And I thought Daniel Jeremiah made a great point when he spoke about the length of the college football season now with the expansion of the postseason and the playoffs. It's a bit more grueling and taxing on the bodies of these players. And so because everything is so condensed now, a lot of these guys aren't fully healed, right, from the season that was, or, they could go if they had to, but they don't have to. And the pro day gives them an additional week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month to, allow themselves to continue to rest their bodies, train, rehab, what may ever be, whatever the case may be. And so I get it, but it makes for an even worse product than it already is. And for me, I'm going to be honest with you, and this may not persist throughout the rest of the weekend, but for me, I can't remember a time where this many guys didn't run 40s and didn't do on the field drills. I mean, I'm going to count how many guys were on the actual docket for today and how many actually participated. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 31. Okay, 31. So that's 62. That is 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. 99 guys were scheduled to appear today. 99. Now, how many of them actually ran 40s? Some of these other guys actually did on the field drills, but they did not run 40s. How many guys ran 40s? Let's just see, because that's the thing that I always like to take a look at and say, okay, why are you ducking the 40? And there are reasons as to why guys don't run, and I get it. Again, everything is done for a reason. Whether I agree with it or not is a different story. But so again, the number is 99, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 51, 2, 3. So out of a possible 99 participants, 53 guys actually ran a 40. So just a shade over half. Okay, I mean it's getting ridiculous now, right? And again, and then on the field drills, you probably could add another 12 guys who actually participated on the field drills, didn't run a 40. So it's becoming one of these things where we're here as fans. We're here to see a lot of the top guys, right? The guys that are going to wow us, the guys that are going to be premier players at the next level. We want to see their humble beginnings here at the combine, right? We want to see guys blow up the combine. We love those moments. We love watching last season and last combine rather. And again, we're going to see the guys run. We're going to see the guy. We love what we saw last year from Xavier Worthy. Like that's the kind of stuff you tune in to see. That's the stuff that captivates you. You're not going to get that with defensive linemen. You're not going to get that more likely than not. You can get it with edge rushers. You're more likely than not going to get it with linebackers or defensive linemen, but edge rushers, you just never know. But anyway, we start out with probably the deepest group in the draft, and it's defensive tackle. They led the way today in day number 1 of the combine. And I'll make it brief. A lot of the names that that I know, that we'll hear their names called day 1, day 2. A lot of those guys didn't participate today. There was no Mason Graham. He's got an injury. There was no, or I think he's nursing an injury. There was no Kenneth Grant. He just found an injury that he had, so he didn't. The 2 Michigan defensive tackles. There was no Walter Nolan. I was really looking forward to seeing him. He didn't do anything today. Of course he didn't. There was no Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. I mean, I could keep going. I mean, all the guys that you were hoping to see today, you didn't, which again, it's fine. But of this group, there are about 3 or 4 guys that really jumped off the screen at me from a standpoint of movement ability, because the 40s, for the defensive, for the big guys, that doesn't really move me, right? 10-second split, they so Daniel Jeremiah always shares the height, the weight, and the 40 time and the 10-second split for the defensive lineman. And he does that with every position, the numbers that matter. So for the defensive tackles, 6'4", 300 pounds. That's the average height and weight. 4.89, 40, and 1.71 10-second split are the numbers for the top 10 sack defensive tackles in the NFL. So when you average together, you add together and divide, and you get an average of the top 10 sack, producing defensive tackles from the 2024 season. These are the numbers that spit out. So there were 2 guys in particular that I thought really had strong days, and then one guy that I am just captivated by. I am absolutely mesmerized and intrigued by what he could be at the next level because of his versatility. So the 2 guys that stood out to me were Darius Alexander of Toledo 6'4", 305. So he checks off both of the boxes that Daniel Jeremiah talked about in terms of height and size. And then he ran a 4.9540 with a 1.72 10-second split. So he was just shy of both of those mile markers. But he looked good, very fluid, out of Toledo. So last year, Toledo had a first-round pick, I think, for the first time in program history. I think, not sure about that, with the corner Quinyon Mitchell for the Philadelphia Eagles. They may do it again this year. I don't think Darius Alexander is going to go in the first round. I don't. But I do think he will go in the second round. And I thought he pretty much stamped himself as not only a day 2 prospect, but a second round prospect. I thought he looked good. He looked fluid. He looked like he belonged. And the other guy for me was Florida State defensive tackle Joshua Farmer, 6'3" and 1 1/4. So didn't quite hit the height marker, but he's 305. So he hits the weight marker that was set. Ran a 5.11 and a 1.77 10-second split. So neither one of those numbers are ideal from the numbers that DJ gave us. But the movement skills, I thought he was the best mover of the day along the defensive line that we saw today. Of the guys that I think are going to ultimately hear their name called, day 1, day 2. There were other guys that moved really well. I'll throw those names out here in a second. But I thought for the guys that you were looking to see, he was another guy that I thought really showed well and looked good in the movement drills on the field in terms of his on the field work. Jarrett Harrison Hunt out of SMU, 6'3", 290, ran a 4.86 with a 1.69 10-second split. Those are, great numbers. And at 290, it's solid, right? It's a bit undersized. And I do want to talk about something DJ talked about, because I thought he brought up another excellent point, and I do want to discuss that, which is why this defensive line class is going to be really impactful, because I talked about this actually earlier in the day on the Washington show that I did, the Command Post Live, about how it's a copycat league. And the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and playing the type of defense they played this year. And again, everything is cyclical in the NFL. Things go in cycles. I mean, and I've always told you guys this. I believe this firmly, that sports is a microcosm of society. I always tell you guys that. And just like in sports, things are cyclical. Same can be said for, life, right? Things go around. Some things trendy now. It goes out of style. And then 20 years later, a new generation comes around and it's back in style, right? Once upon a time, guys like not Sean Gilbert. What was the big effing defensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers? My goodness. I could see his face mask. He used to wear the visor, number 93. His name was Gilbert. Why can't I think of his entire name? But guys like him and Sam Adams and these massive men, when I was growing up as a young fan, these guys were huge. These guys are 340, 350, and they were immovable objects. And if you really wanted to stop the run, you needed to have one of these guys. You just couldn't move. Gilbert Brown, thank you, DCJ. Exactly. I thought I was showing my age there. I didn't think anybody would know who the hell I was talking about. Gilbert Brown. This guy was the epitome of like space eater. You would hear them use that term. Road grader, we would hear those terms used with these types of guys. They're just massive, right? And those guys stopped the run. Figuratively and literally, you could not run at these guys. You had to run away from these dudes. And the Vince Wilforks of the world, right? You don't see these guys that often anymore because the league kind of went away from those types of defenders, those 2-down guys, and really wanted guys that could do everything, guys that could play for all 3 downs. So you don't see teams prioritizing first and second down defensive linemen because the league had changed. It's more of a passing league. You want guys that can get after the quarterback. If they decide to run the football, yeah, he should be able to stop the run ideally, but we care more about his ability to rush the passer. Well, the Eagles played that 2-high shell. They played essentially quarters coverage, right? 2 deep safeties, corners keep everything in front of them, and you couldn't get anything deep on them because they kept 2 safeties. And the only way you can do that is by playing with a light box. And in order to play with a light box, you got to be able to stop the run without bringing down the extra defender. The only way you're going to do that is if you got guys that can either win immediately, get in the backfield and disrupt, or guys that can take on double teams, eat up blockers, and allow your linebackers to roam free and go hunt the ball. Either way, you better have those guys inside that can affect the game if you're going to do that. And that's what the Eagles have, right? Guys that can affect the game. We saw it in the Super Bowl from a pass rusher standpoint, but also keep in mind the Eagles stopped the run pretty well for a team that doesn't do a whole bunch of blitzing and doesn't bring down their safeties quite often. So this draft is going to be interesting to see if what the Eagles did resonates around the league, which it's a copycat league, and you got to know that teams are going to try and emulate that. And I think you're going to see some of these bigger, there's a lot of 330-pound guys that we saw today. And some of them were moving, man. Some of them were moving. I'll just throw out a few names here. Zeke Biggers of Georgia Tech, 6'5.5", 321. Ran a 5.14 40 with a 1.74 10-second split. Are you kidding me? And I think his vertical was like a 34-inch vert. Like, that's ridiculous for that size. I think we have become somewhat, desensitized and somewhat jaded by guys running 40s now. Like, if you're not blazing fast, if you're not running some ridiculous time we've never seen before, then it's not impressive. Craziness. That's ridiculous. Is what that is. Running that fast at that size. I'll give you another guy that I thought was really moving for his size. How about Cam Jackson at 6'6", 328, running a 5.17 and a 1.81 10-second split. Again, those numbers don't blow you away. The dude is 6'6", 330. I mean, what are we talking about? This is crazy. Elijah Simmons, I mean, like, this isn't he wasn't super fast or anything, but he's 6'1", 334. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. He's a fire hydrant. Good luck moving 6'1", 334, right? Low center of gravity, wide as the day is long. Good luck getting him out of the way and trying to run the football, right? And Nazir Stackhouse of Georgia, 6'3", 3.75, 327, right? 5.15, 1.80, 10-second split. Like, there's some big dudes in this draft at the defensive tackle position that can move And I thought Terrion Ingram Dawkins out of Georgia was he was misplaced. He didn't belong with this group. I know that in college he played defensive tackle, but he's 276 now. Maybe at the next level he puts on some more weight, and he's going to be a mismatch nightmare, because if you can play a guy inside with his quickness and his ability, he's got to be able to hold up at the point of attack. And at 276, he's not going to be able to do that, which is why I think he should have been with the edge rushers personally. I thought there were a couple of guys there. I was like, you probably should have put him with the D tackles, and you should have probably put that guy with the edge rushers. But he was the best athlete of this group. He and Jared Harrison Hunt, as I talked about with SMU, but 4.86 40, 169 10-second split for Terrion Ingram Dawkins at 6'5", 276. Also had a 7.28 3-cone, which is really good for an interior defensive lineman. Again, most guys don't run 3 cones anymore. I don't blame them, because it's the most, to me, it is the most impactful number. I don't really give a shit about your 40, right? I don't, whatever position, you know, when we're talking in the trenches, offensive or defensive line, edge rush, I don't really give a shit about your 40 time. Your 10-second split is what matters there. And really, what you could not run a 40, you could not have a 10-second split. I really don't give a shit about any of that. What's your 3-cone, right? That'll tell me everything I need to know about, can you turn the corner in the NFL? That's why guys don't do it anymore. I'm not giving you a 3-cone number so you can pick me apart. No, I'm not doing that, right? Anyway, the guy that I am very intrigued and fascinated with is JJ Pegues, or Pegues, excuse me, of Ole Miss. 6'2.5", 309, but ran a 5.15 with a 1.82 10-second split. But that's not what's important, and that's not why I'm fascinated with him. This is a guy that can play like 50 different positions. He's one of those Justin Matlocks that we saw with the Los Angeles Chargers. He is Patrick Ricard, who we've seen for years with the Baltimore Ravens. A guy that starts out as a defensive tackle, switches over to the offensive side as a fullback. But like, I saw him out there catching passes, running routes. He's plucking the ball out of the air, and they used him in wildcat situations at Ole Miss. They used him in the backfield as a fullback. They used him at tight end. They gave him the ball. They threw him the ball. He played defense. I'm like, well, damn, what didn't he do? Right? Everything except quarterback, it feels like he did. And I said he played wildcat, so he did that as well. So I'm fascinated with, you know, what he could potentially be at the next level if he falls into the right hands. So he was a guy that really jumped at me. I thought the biggest winner, though, of the defensive line today was Ty Robinson of Nebraska. 6'5" and an eighth, 288 pounds. Ran a 4.83 with a 171 10-second split. So outside of weight, he checked off all the boxes: the height box, the speed box, and then the 10-second split box. He already came into this process as one of the better, you know, defensive linemen in the draft. And then you go out and you run the way that he did. You go out and show the movement skills that I thought he put on display today. And I think he helped himself, because I think, you know, he's one of those dudes where you watch the tape and you ask yourself, okay, well, what kind of an athlete are you? And if you were on the fence, this is what I always tell you, I think the combine and your pro days and all that stuff is about either stamping, you know, the report. If it's a good one, you stamp it and they move on, like, okay, yep, he's legit. If there are questions, concerns, you answer them, right? Can he run? Go out and run and show them that you're not slow, right? that's what this process is about. If you know, for a guy like Robinson, the production's there. You see the tape. Is he an athlete? You know, what is his ceiling? Now we know, okay, he can be a little bit more than maybe we thought he could be. And he's almost 290. So, you know, I thought he helped himself tremendously today. And that's what this is about, right? A guy that might have been a 4th-round pick, a guy that might have been a 3rd-round pick. I think he was probably a day 2 selection, probably 3rd round. Can he sneak his way into the back end of the 2nd now? Maybe he did with his combine performance, right? So those were the defensive linemen. And then CJ West of Indiana, 6'1" and an 316, ran a 4.95 with a 1.73 10-second split. They likened him to, I always love when they spit out a comp with, you know, just off the numbers. And his comp was Kenny. Why can't I remember Packers defensive tackles today? What's the UCLA defensive tackle? But it was him. And I was like, well, shit, that's a damn good guy to be comped to. And I thought his movement skills looked good as well. So he might be an interesting guy. Kenny Clark, thank you. I know why I can't get Packer defensive tackles last names today. I couldn't get Gilbert Brown's last name. I couldn't get Kenny Clark's last name. I don't know why I can't get Packer defensive tackles last names tonight. But as you move on to the next group, it was the edge rushers. And much like the defensive tackles, all the guys that we showed up wanting to see weren't in service today. We found out that Abdul Carter has some sort of, injury to his foot. I believe like a stress. It's not a fracture. It's not broken. It's like some sort of stress something in his foot that he can either have surgery. So maybe it is I don't think it's a fracture, but it's something where he can either have surgery on it or he could push through it, you know, do all of the stuff at his pro day and then have surgery. We'll see what he elects to do there. But of course, we wanted to see Abdul Carter. We didn't. Of course, we wanted to see Mike Green. We didn't. There were other guys that you probably wanted to see. I wanted to see Jared Ivey. Of course, we didn't see him. Not run, at least. We did see guys like Jack Sawyer and Nick Scorton, who I was intrigued by, do the on-field drills, but they didn't run 40s. So I don't know why Braden Swinson of LSU, who did all the on-the-field drills, why he didn't run a 40, because I thought he would do well there, but whatever. And then we didn't see Michael Williams, right? So of the guys that performed, I'll give you some names of dudes who stood out. Fadil Diggs of Syracuse, 6'4", 3/8, at 257 pounds, ran a 4.57. So the number here for edge rushers, top 10 guys in the league as edge rushers: 6'3" and 3/4, 254 pounds, excuse me, 4.6 240, and a 1.61 10-second split. So I thought Fadil Diggs showed flashes of some things that intrigue you, makes you want to go watch him a little bit to see if there's more there, right? I thought he was intriguing today. So let's start with some of the names of some guys that are or more household names in this draft that did, do some work on the field. So there's Landon Jackson of Arkansas, Donovan Izoroku, out of BC, who I was really looking forward to seeing because I've seen mocks where he's a late first round pick and people were like, he's like a Raven type player, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, well, let me see what kind of an athlete he is. I thought Izoroku, Izoroku. He looked good on the field. He didn't run the 40, but we'll talk about him in a second. Landon Jackson was solid throughout the course of the day. We'll talk about him in a second. James Pierce Jr. Let me just say this. Any Commanders fans out there that had dreams of James Pierce Jr. being available at 29, those dreams died tonight. Those dreams died a slow and painful death tonight. He will not be available at 29, folks. That is over. Okay. So that dream died for me tonight, which was totally fine. I thought he would do this, and he did exactly what I thought he was going to do. We'll talk about him here in a second. Shamar Stewart was a guy that I wanted to see, and it was good to see him out there, and thought he did some good things. So we'll talk about him as well. So let's go in order. Let's go in alphabetical order, and we'll start with Donovan Izoroku. 6'2.5", 248. Did not run a 40. I thought he looked good in the on-field drills. I was super impressed with his movement skills. I was expecting this blocky, choppy, mechanical type mover, right? In my mind, I was thinking like Ziggy Ansah. You hear the name, and I'm like, I hadn't seen I wasn't familiar with his game. So I'm like, okay, I'm guessing this dude's gonna move like Ziggy Ansah. Now, obviously, Ansah was like 6'5", 270 or whatever, but different frame, of course. But no, this dude is fluid. He is more Tamba Hali, but he's not as big as Tamba Hali. Again, Tamba Hali was like 6'5", 260, 265. But Tamba Hali was fluid, right? So is Donovan Izoroku. And this is the thing that gets me excited. So one of the drills I really like that they've implemented, I think this is the second year now they've been doing this drill, is the drill where you slap the first bag, you spin on the second bag, you bend on the third bag, and then you dip around the corner and you go as tight as you can around that last bag, and then you get to the quarterback, right? After that last bag, right? Come flat down and you get to the quarterback. I love that drill for edge rushers because you get to see everything on display. If you're tight, if you don't have fluidity, that spin is going to kick your ass, right? You see it with those guys that got this big blocky spin, right? And then if you can't turn the corner, that last bag, you're going to slip. It's going to be wide. You can see the guys that have the ability to turn and bend that corner and flatten to the quarterback. And Izoroku, he's got it. And I could see it watching that drill, and then I got the confirmation, because if you scared, say you scared. If you ain't scared and you ain't got nothing to hide, then you're going to do it. He did the 3-cone because he's like, I'm going to kill it because I got that ability. So we are clear on what the 3-cone indicates. It indicates change of direction, ability to bend and turn the corner, right? That's what the 3-cone, that's the practical application of the 3-cone. The best guys in the league that get to the quarterback kill the 3-cone. We don't see guys do the 3-cone. We don't get numbers on the 3-cone anymore because a lot of these guys know what the 3-cone represents, and it doesn't make sense to do it. Like, I know Chase Young's 3-cone was probably like 7-4 something. And that's awful, right? Like, you don't even look at me. Don't talk to me if you don't have something less than a 7.3, right? If it's not 7.2 something or lower, don't even look at me. Don't talk to me as an edge rusher. We got nothing. We got nothing to talk about. Okay. If you want me to look at you in a different manner, like, be sub 7, right? Have that first number start with a 6. That's how you really start the conversation. Like, you 6? Tell me more. I'm interested. You know, I'm listening. You got my attention, right? Have that second number start with anything less than a 9. And I'm like, you don't say. So what were those college numbers? Now I need to ask more questions, because now I'm like, we might be able to do something with you. If that number starts, that second number starts with a 7 or anything lower than that, you got yourself a winner. Okay. You got yourself a winner. Now you just got to coach him up, teach him how to use his hands. You got yourself a winner, right? 6, 7, anything. 6, 6, anything under 6. Like I said, anything under 6, 8. You got yourself a winner, a guy that can win. You just got to teach him how to use his hands. I don't care how explosive you are. If you can turn the corner, if you got a 3-cone, you're already explosive. It tells me you're explosive and you can turn the corner. You can bend. Anything under 7, and I'm listening. You got my attention. He was a 6'9'4", 3-cone. Was Donovan Izaraku. So there's something there with him, right? One of the few guys that actually did the 3-cone that matter. Again, I get it. Landon Jackson, 6'6", 264, Arkansas edge rusher. Very productive collegiate career. 4.68, 40, a 1.65, 10-second split. So didn't hit the numbers there, but he hit the height and weight requirements that DJ gave us. I thought he was solid, in his workout. He didn't blow me away. But he never struck me as a guy. When I would watch Arkansas, he never struck me as a guy that blew me away on the field. I just thought he was a solid player, right? And I think that's what that's what he projects to be at the next level for me. We'll see what he ultimately becomes at the NFL level. Let's see. James Pierce Jr., man. I knew what was coming. I was prepared. But I was just, I don't know what I was expecting. I don't know what I was hoping. Because I wanted to see the young man do well. I root for everyone to do well, right? This is their livelihoods we're talking about here. I want everyone to go out there and crush it. But you also are like, yeah, but if you just didn't have your best day today, it wouldn't hurt, right? I don't know what I was rooting for, because I wanted to see him do well, but I knew the consequences of him doing well. James Pierce Jr. And what's crazy is, before, everyone does their broad and verticals before they run their 40s. And his vert was nasty. It was, and not in a good way. It was like a 31-inch vert or something like that. It was like, ugh, that's nasty. I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not, I told you, his first 2-3 steps are as explosive as we've seen. It's in that Micah Parsons territory, right? It's Von Miller-esque, his first 3 steps are. So I'm like, 31-inch vert. That's not what I've seen. So I was like, interesting. This 40 might not be what I thought it was going to be. And then he stepped up, and those first 2-3 steps out of the blocks were exactly what I thought they were going to be. The 10-second split was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And the damn 40 was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And then he followed that up with some of the most fluid and easy, smooth, on the field work that we've seen the entire day, that we saw the entire day. And I said, yep, that's what I thought I was going to get. 6'5" in a quarter, 245. Ran a 4.47 and a 1.56 10-second split. Yikes. There it is. He's a problem. And I think he ran himself right into the top half of the first round. There was a chance that he could get to the back half of the first round. I think that is now done. It's gone. He is now a top half of the first round prospect. So I mourn the loss of the opportunity to draft James Pierce Jr. It's okay. That's how these things go. Shamar Stewart, 6'5", 267. So he checks off the height and the weight boxes. 4.62 and 1.61 were the 40 time and 10-second split. He ran a 4.59 and had a 1.58 10-second split. So he checked off every single box. He was actually disappointed in his 40 time, which I don't know why he was. Maybe, of course, I know why. He thought he was going to run faster. He wanted to run faster. He probably was running faster when he was training for this. But those times, like they put his, because obviously he went to Texas A&M just like Myles Garrett did. So it's natural for them to, put their, height, weight, speed, all that stuff coming out of, the draft side by side. And the numbers were very comparable. Stewart was actually a better athlete, but here's the difference between the two of them. Myles Garrett was a freak athlete with the production to match, and Shamar Stewart doesn't have the production. And he's one of those dudes that people are a bit leery on because there's not that production, and he doesn't have a refined game, and he's just an athlete right now. But what I've learned in this process with guys that are supremely gifted, that have the things you can't teach, either you have it or you don't, you're blessed with it or you aren't, is that give me the guy that has the tools, right? Give me the guy that has the tools. Like, I've seen dudes that are skilled pass rushers but aren't explosive and dynamic. They get to the NFL and they're crafty in college, and that got them 12.5 sacks, but that shit ain't gonna work at the NFL level, because an elite tackle will erase your craftiness. And if you're not a good enough athlete to beat them and threaten them, they're just gonna shut you down, and they're gonna pitch a no-hitter, right? You're not gonna sniff the quarterback, right? So those Bradley Anais that get drafted, who were like, oh my God, this guy's skilled and he knows how to get to the quarterback. Well, that shit ain't flying at the next level. You won't hear from Bradley Anais. He gets silenced when he gets to the NFL. Not that guys with athleticism don't. We've seen that happen as well. But like Attack McKinley had all the explosiveness and dynamic ability, but he had no skill, right? We see that too. But you much rather have that slab of clay than the slab of clay that is pretty well molded, but there isn't any extra there. He's got all the tools you're looking for. He's just somebody's got to help him put it together, right? Give him some extra tools to help him be, the best version of himself. But he checks all the boxes, that's for sure. Let's talk about one more guy in particular that I thought had a really good day. So Oluwafemi Oladijo out of UCLA. Interesting story. Here's a guy, former off the ball linebacker that just wasn't really producing at a high level there. They take him and they put his hand in the dirt and switch him from off the ball backer to defensive end. And this might have saved his football career. He's 6'3", 259, heavy hands, physical as the day is long. And I thought he absolutely murdered the on the field work. I thought of all of the guys that I didn't really know, which you can see I already have done a little bit of work on him just based off of his movement skills today. I was like, I got to go learn a little bit more. Like, what's his story? What's his deal? Right. I'm intrigued. He reminds me of the Odigizua boys, right? He reminds me of the older brother that came into the league first. Owa. There was Owa Odigizua, and now there's Osa Odigizua. I like what I saw from Alua Wafemi Oladijo. He's intriguing to me. Now he's a work in progress, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And he's a day 3 prospect, obviously, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's helping somebody in 2 years. You know what I mean? 2-3 years, and he seems to be a quick study. So, I like his movement skills. And at 260, I like what I saw. What I need to check and see is how long his arms are. I'll probably do that down the road, but I like him a lot. I like what I saw from him a lot. He looked good, man. He's on my radar now. So that was the edge rushers. And no, I'm not done yet. So Jack Sawyer was fine in the on the field work. Nick Scorton, I thought, out of Texas A&M, he's a little rough around the edges, but he's physical. Everything he did it hard and aggressive. And there's a place for that in the NFL. You know, like he's interesting. He's interesting. That they had a hell of a defensive line, as you can see. We done talked about 3-4 Texas A&M dudes, and he was a part of that. So I thought he was, like I said, he did everything extremely hard, fast and physical. So just another guy that I wanted to bring up before we moved on. I thought Braden Swinson looked good in the on the field work too, but that's not a surprise out of LSU. I thought he would run and he didn't. So that I wonder why he chose not to run. Again, doesn't really make sense to me, but it is what it is. Then you finish up with the linebackers, which is not a great group this year. But, you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. What are you looking for? You know, but I can tell you this group, they caught the football well, but they didn't inspire me. I didn't walk away saying, man, I need to go look up this dude. I need to find out what this guy's story is. I didn't feel that way, but it was good to see one of the best guys in that group actually participate, which was Jahad Campbell, because he could have done like everybody else and ran from the smoke, the cameras, the lights, the stage. And you know what I hate hearing now? I the ones that are injured, right? Like Carson Schlesinger, who I know wanted to compete. Because when you got the mentality that he has as a former walk-on, a no-star walk-on to UCLA, had to earn his way onto that roster and do what he did to build himself up and pull yourself up by the bootstraps. He got it out the mud. He wanted to be out there and showcase his skills, and he couldn't due to an injury. But it's a lot of guys that they hit the, oh man, it's killing me not to be competing out here. Man, shut up. I don't want to hear that shit. You ain't injured. I want to hear that shit. Oh, it's killing me. You know, Stacey Dale's always, oh, it is killing him. He says this is killing him. I don't want to hear that shit, man. If you able-bodied and you could be out here, then why you ain't out here? Don't give me that bullshit about, oh, it's killing me not to be out here competing. Okay, guy. I know Schlesinger wanted to be out there. I would have loved to have seen him run. But it was good to see Jahad Campbell go out there and do his thing. So the number for linebackers is 4.63. That's the number you're trying to hit from a speed standpoint. You know, of all the positions in football, I think the one position that we have put too much of an emphasis on speed is linebacker. Like, I remember a time when 4.6, anything at linebacker was tremendous speed. That would equate to like a 83 on Madden, 83 speed on Madden at linebacker. I don't know what the speeds are anymore on Madden. I haven't played Madden in damn near 2 decades. But in my day, you could do a hell of a lot with an 82, 83, anything 80 speed at linebacker. You could do work with an 80 whatever speed linebacker. You were dying for get your hands on a guy that could run at 82, 83, 84 speed. Now we see a 4.6 guy. Oh, he's slow. And I'm just like, what? And I'm guilty of this. I have to catch myself sometimes because I'm like, bro, that's plenty fast at the linebacker position. You think these guys like Fred Warner out here running 4.5, 4.4 something? No, they're not. They're not running that at all. A lot of these dudes that are killing it at the linebacker position aren't as fast as you think. It's the anticipation that really gets the job done. Seeing it, knowing it, and going, right? Anyway, let's go through these linebackers real quick. So let's see. Let's start with Jahad, man. 6'3", 235, which is great height and weight at the linebacker position in today's NFL. Ran a 4.5, 240. He was moving. And he looked good on the field drills. You could tell he just was comfortable. You could tell he played on the ball. He played off the ball. He caught it well, plucked it out of the air. He just looked comfortable in space, man. And so you could tell that he can do a little bit of everything. And the intrigue surrounding him is, can he rush the quarterback? Because they asked him to do that at Alabama quite a bit because that was his natural position coming in as a recruit. But they already had 2 guys on the edges. You may have heard of them, Dallas Turner and Will Anderson Jr. So they weren't going to bench those guys. So they said, well, you go play off the ball because you're too good of an athlete to not put on the field. So you go off the ball while those 2 dudes do what they're doing. And then when they move out the way, you slide back down there and do what you do best. So he's kind of a Swiss Army knife. And he looked good, man. He was as advertised. It was crazy because the first Daniel Jeremiah mock draft had the Commanders selecting Jahad Campbell. And I was like, all right, cool. You know, when you're at 29, it's just like, what do I do? Just give you the best player available. We don't necessarily need a linebacker if you have Bobby Wagner back. We could use an edge rusher, but again, at 235, he ain't setting no edges. So he would be a situational pass rusher. Well, we got one of those if we bring back Dante Fowler Jr., which we all expect to be the case. Shit, I could use a Jahad Campbell. We could use a Jahad Campbell. I mean, there's never there's never a time where you can't use a Jahad Campbell. I don't give a shit how many linebackers you got, how many guys you got that can get after the quarterback. You can always use a guy like that. So, again, I think he stamped himself as a first-round pick because there were mock drafts that had him falling out of the first round. There are mock drafts that had him towards the end of the first round. I think he's now comfortably in the middle of the first round now, is Jahad Campbell. And all it takes is one team to fall in love with him and say, you know what? I'll take him at 11 or I'll take him at, 13. But he feels like a guy that comes off the board at 18 or 20 or 22. And I think that's where he'll ultimately land in this year's draft class when it's all said and done. Let's go to the other. No, there were no other really big names in here. Let's see who I thought kind of stood out with their performance. You know who I thought really helped themselves? What's funny is I know I'm guilty of this. I can't speak for anybody else. You see a white dude, not well defined, looks a little scraggly, and you're just like, he's probably trash. I did that to Danny Stutzman out of Oklahoma. Just like, he looks basic. Last guy running a 40. Just get it over with, Danny, so we can get onto the field, right? So we can get to the second round of 40s. And then he went and ran a 4.52, and I was like, oh, shit, Danny. It's like that. He's like, yeah, it's like that. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to keep my eye on you on the field drills. I thought Danny did some good shit. So I was like, all right, well, let me go look you up, see what they're talking about. And turns out Danny's actually a pretty good football player. So I thought he helped himself tremendously because the questions on him were about athleticism. They're like, look, he's physical at the point of attack. He gets guys on the ground. The question was, how good of an athlete are you? Pretty damn good athlete, I'd say. So I thought he helped himself with the way he moved today. Of the two South Carolina linebackers, I was impressed with Demetrius Knight Jr. This is a guy that they kept, ranting and raving about as a leader and this and that. I don't quite remember if he was the guy. I don't think it was him that had two kids and, was driving a Lyft or door dashing to make extra money after playing games and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it was him or not. Could be mixing up the guys and the stories or whatever, but he looked good. He looked good. 6'1" and 5/8, 235, ran a 4.58. I thought he was a guy that really helped himself today, for sure. I really liked the way Nick Martin moved out of Oklahoma State. 5'11 and a half, 221. He's just so tiny. He's too damn small. He gives me former safety converted linebacker vibes. Like, he's just so small. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. He probably gonna have to make his bones on special teams. But I just like the way he moved. His movements were explosive. 4.53 40 he ran today. I also thought Smile Mondin Jr. Out of Georgia ran a 4.58 at 6'2", 224. I thought he looked good, and they said he's got really good coverage skills, and I could see the movement skills. He had a crazy moment where he tried to catch the ball, went through his hands, hit him in the face. So the next drill, when they threw him the ball, he moved his face out the way like a little ass kid. Like when I throw my son the baseball, he moves his head out the way and catches it with the glove. And I'm like, son, this is why you got one of these on your hand. It's called a glove. You use it, right? Don't move your head out of the way. The ball isn't going to hit you if you use the glove, right? Hey, That's why you got these, your hands, right? Ball's not going to hit you in the face if you catch it with these, right? Well, he fooled me once, shame on you. Fool me, you won't fool me again, right? Fool me twice, you won't fool me, you won't get me again, right? He won't have that shit. That man literally took he went full mime on my ass. Moved to the side and caught that bitch. I said, oh, damn. Ball got you shook like that, beat his ass up. I ain't mad at it, though. Got to protect the moneymaker, which is the face, right? But I thought he moved well, though, outside of that one snafu. Another one of these dudes that didn't look the part initially, but as they said, family business. Carson Bruner, who I remember his dad, a tight end that I played many years in the NFL, specifically with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mark Bruner, his son ran a 4.58 at 6'1" and a quarter, 227. He didn't look like he was about to run a 4.58, but he stepped up there and ran a 4.58. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check on you. I thought Teddy Buchanan out of Cal looked good, moved well, and Francisco Maigoa out of Miami, 6'2", 233, ran a 4.6 flat. Thought he looked good in a lot of his movements. Kane Madrano, 6'3", 222 from UCLA, ran a 4.46, was the fastest, I think, of any position in day one. Looked a little stiff, tight-hipped in the on the field drills, but you could tell he's an athlete. And again, another guy that special teams is going to ultimately be the way he makes his hay in the NFL. So again, this group was as advertised. I was not impressed with the linebackers, but I already knew that. I knew this is not a strong group. And then some of the better guys that will get you excited, they didn't perform. So it was already a lackluster group, and then you took away two of the bigger names from the group, Jalen Walker and Schlesinger, Carson Schlesinger, and this is what you're left with. So thought it was oh, and Barrett Carter of Clemson. I thought he moved well. I thought he looked the part. I wonder why he didn't run. They said that he should have tested well. From all accounts, from all the things I saw with him running around on the field, I said, that's fluid. That looks good to me. But again, guys have their reasoning as to why they decide not to run the 40. Maybe he wanted more time to prepare for the 40. Maybe he thinks he can get his time down by a couple hundredths of a second. But whatever the case may be, he decided not to run his 40. But I thought the on-the-field work looked damn good. So that's day one of the scouting combine. Linebackers, edge rushers, defensive linemen. Not much to see today, to be honest with you. But the guys that we thought were about that life, that are first round guys that went out and performed today, proved that they have first round athleticism without question. The James Pierce Jr.'s, the Jahad Campbells of the world, they went out and they stamped their, first round ticket, essentially. So, big shout out to the guys that came out and competed and confirmed what we already thought about them. But tomorrow is when the 40 times and all that stuff start to matter, because tomorrow you get the corners, those defensive backs, where speed is everything, right? You have to be able to run at that position in this new day and age in the NFL. I mean, that's timeless. You go all the way back to the 80s and 90s, you needed to be able to run. But it's even more important now with these receivers getting bigger, faster, stronger. And with tight ends being able to run the way they run now, which is why these linebackers are getting smaller but faster, you got to be able to run at the cornerback position. So, and in the secondary in general. So we'll see them tomorrow, along with the tight ends, another group where we're expecting fireworks from them because this is one of the better positional groups in this year's draft class. So looking forward to the tight ends tomorrow, along with some of these defensive backs. And obviously Saturday is the main attraction: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. And then you finish up the combine on Sunday with the offensive line. So let's get to the comment section and then we'll get out of here. Jorn, been a member for 35 months, almost at that 3-year Annie, man. Really, truly do appreciate you, my guy, Jorn. Right. Appreciate all you do, Lou, man. I appreciate you even more than you can even imagine and know, right? Really appreciate you for holding the kid down, you know. Hell, it's on the East Coast, 1:37 a.m. I don't know if you're on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, wherever you at, though. It's late wherever, right? And you here with me kicking it, talking day one of the NFL Scouting Combine. So I really appreciate you, man. David, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. David writes, Lou, what do you think of Jalen Royals, wide receiver from Utah State? Haven't really watched him yet, but, you know, I will, again, have an opinion on a lot of these dudes, just watching them run and, you know, see how they move. And I can kind of give you a sense of how I feel just about watching them there. But, you know, ultimately it's going to boil down to the tape. And I haven't dived into his tape. I've heard things about him, but I don't like to go off of what other people's opinions are of players, especially the receivers, because of all the positions, receiver is the one where I feel like I can get down and dirty and really talk about the position. Not like I'm an expert or anything, but in my mind, I am, you know, but I'm definitely going to see what a lot of these receivers, because I think it's a wide open receiver group this year. It's not like last year where there was like clear delineation, like, okay, you had Brian Thomas Jr., you had Malik Neighbors, you had your boy from Washington, you had Marvin Harrison Jr. It was like, all right, we got these dudes who are elite. And then there was like a line you had to draw. And then you got to this next wave of receivers. And then you drew another line, and then it's like everybody else, right? Rome Odunze, that's his name. So that ain't the case this year. Like, we could make an argument as to who the number one receiver is. I think most people think it's Tet, but you know, you could ask somebody else who their number one receiver is, and they give you a different name. Or this guy might be their cup of tea. You know, it's not often that you don't have a top 10 receiver in the draft. Somebody at the receiver position is going in the top 10. And Tet may go in the top 10. I mean, teams like New England, for instance, need a receiver, right? Jacksonville could say, you know what? We're going to take Tet and give Brian Thomas Jr. somebody opposite of him. So we probably still see a top 10 receiver, but it wouldn't shock me if we didn't see a top 10 receiver this year. How many did we have last year? 3? Malik Neighbors. So it was Harrison Jr. went first to the Cardinals at 4, I believe. Then Malik Neighbors went 6 to the Giants. I think they were at 6. And then Rome Odunze, he went 8th to the Bears, I think. if I'm not mistaken. So I think we had 3 in the top 10 last year. Or was Rome outside like 10 or 11? It might have been 10 or something like that. Whatever the case may be. I think we still had 3 top 10 receivers last year. You're not going to have that this year. You'd be lucky to get 1 in the top 10. But Royals, I think, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've gathered, he's somewhere in that 3rd round range. But again, I'll be able to tell you more about him pretty quickly because I'm gonna get to the receiver position fast, right? I'm gonna get to the position fast. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Duncan Wright writes, as a Super Bowl champion, I can tell you exactly what you need. Big fat linemen to protect your quarterback. I just hope basketball legend Magic knows this. Those guys help a lot. And that was proven in the Super Bowl. You're right. The Chiefs didn't have good enough big fat linemen to protect their quarterback, and it showed. And your team did. So that's a very astute observation by you, Duncan Wright. Cheers to you, my friend. That was a good one. Actually, quite surprised at how logical that statement was. Anyhow, that's day 1. We'll come back. We'll do this again tomorrow. And I have a feeling tomorrow will be a lot more exciting. But once again, if you got anything to do, it's a Friday. Go enjoy life. Don't spend your time watching this. Let me do the heavy lifting and the dirty work, okay? Let me get my hands dirty. Let me waste time, okay? So you don't have to, all right? Now, again, if this is your thing, go right ahead. I'm not going to knock the hustle because we all junkies out here, man. We all junkies out here when it comes to this stuff. But if you don't have to, I wouldn't. I'm just telling you. We'll see. I think tomorrow and Saturday are going to be much better. But I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on my 2025 NFL Scouting Combine coverage. Day 1 in the books. Defensive linemen, linebackers, and edge rushers. We'll come back tomorrow, do it again, and hopefully we'll be a little bit earlier with the coverage. But again, it's kind of weird because, you know, still got a lot of stuff that you're juggling, and it's on at 3 o'clock, so it's kind of hit or miss. But either way, I'll be back to break it all down tomorrow when we'll be talking secondary members, so corners, safeties, and tight ends. I'll see you then. Until then, I'm your man Louie T signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. God bless and good night.